In terms of intimacy after labor, that was impacted just by the process of giving birth, right? The recovery from that, in terms of like how everything feels. It can take a while, right, to like feel ready to connect again sexually and intimately like that. And we're still in that process actually. So that was impacted by this process of like we're still in recovery of like feeling like we're able to connect again physically. Just like it was just not possible. Doesn't feel possible. Even we've tried to reconnect like that, and when we feel like it's really not possible, it's like going back to the first night experience, you know?
Wow.
It's like, yeah, it's like
Relearning somehow?
yeah. I mean, like, you know, not everyone is able to connect at the first time that they try, right? And so we're kind of like going back to that process of, hey, this feels uncomfortable. Maybe we need to try something different, or maybe we need to try again later, because right now it's just a bit painful, or like it doesn't feel right because the physical connection right now is a bit difficult to get like that.
Hello and welcome
to the Heinun Couples Podcast,
where we empower blessed couples
to deepen the love, fostering mutual pleasure, connection, and joy.
So let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Heinun Couples Podcast. I'm so excited for this episode because we're going to talk about intimacy during and after pregnancy. So this is something Sebastian and I are preparing for. So this is something I'm excited to ask you and have a conversation with you too. Before we're starting, I would just love you two to invite and share who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
You want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. My name is David Hirano. I am 32 this year, and we were blessed 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yesterday was our blessing anniversary.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
And currently I am a proud stay-at-home dad. Yeah, taking care of the queen and cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the baby, the little princess too.
Yeah, I'm proud
Yes.
father to a beautiful
Yes.
daughter. I'm Araceli. I think some of you may see me before on a Heinun podcast. Yeah, I'm 28 years old, and we had our first daughter, Lizzie, almost 8 months ago, and also the blessing 3 years ago. And I've been working with Heinun also since 3 years ago. But before that, I was volunteering since 2020, and that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah, besides being a mom and a wife. That's me.
Nice. So basically, David is taking care of Izzy and you're working. Is that something that I understood right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. We are gender.
Yeah, but nice that you're able to do that. And Araceli, you're working mainly from home, right? So that is also like you both at home, but being able to take care of each other and taking care of your little baby girl. And I just would love to jump right into the conversation. Your Izzy is now almost 8 months old, right? And so before even maybe becoming pregnant, did you ever had a conversation on how will that be? Did you have a conversation about intimacy during pregnancy? That's when your body is changing, or maybe your libido is differently, or how was that for you too?
So before getting pregnant, is that the question? Like if we talked about intimacy how intimacy was going to be during pregnancy before we were pregnant?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Not really.
No.
No.
For me.
The conversation about pregnancy was always more about like, do we feel ready to become parents? Do we feel ready to take like the responsibility of raising a child and everything that entails, both externally and internally, and also maybe how do we feel as a couple? Like, do we have the foundation to like add another challenge and responsibility? And we didn't really went into the details of like, okay, intimacy is gonna be hard or different. Like we didn't think about that, to be honest. So yeah, it was kind of an a heat of a moment type of decision where we both felt like at the same time we both felt ready to like, yeah, I think we could take this on. We always talked about wanting to be parents earlier than our parents were with their first child, right? And so we were like, okay, it's a good time in terms of your age, but also in terms of what is going on in our lives. So I feel ready, and I was like, if you're ready, I'm ready. And that's how it went, the conversation. That was pretty much it. So we didn't really think about details.
Yeah, it was more focused on, are we ready to invite a new person or,
Yeah.
have Lizzie come to the world?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to have that kind of conversation, right? To feel ready, feel like taking on a new responsibility, new challenge as well as a couple, and having the right foundation. But then during pregnancy, how was that going then?
So during the first 3 months were terrible. Like, no, like intimacy was not even part of the conversation, even part of like the realm of possibilities. Like, I was just like, we were both focused on my survival because it was
Wow.
really, the symptoms, like, morning sickness. It was like all day sickness,
It was
basically.
not morning only.
Yeah, it was really terrible because I also had a food poisoning
Same
thing
time.
at the same time while I was going through like the first trimester like symptoms. So it was really bad. But then, yeah, after the 3 months went by, I was like, okay, now I go back to life more of a normal person. It was more, yeah, that was more possible. And yeah, we were living at my parents' house for a while, so also not that possible. But
Yeah.
once we were at our place, the place that we're now, yeah, intimacy was different. So the rest of the pregnancy, when we were at our house, just the two of us living together, and also I was like starting like 5 months, pregnancy, it was more possible to like, feel like myself a little bit more, still pregnant, but a little bit more like I could do things in life, intimacy and like connecting with David, and yeah, it was a lot more doable. But it was also something that it was more in my headspace, let's say, that I wanted to do it, that I wanted to connect more, that I wanted to have more intimacy, sexual, but also like just emotional. We had to kind of logistically, the bump the belly was in the way sometimes, so we had to kind of work around that. But yeah, when we were able to do that, whenever I was feeling like with energy and like the desire and like everything was like aligned and prepared for that, it was really nice to connect. I think that the connection was so much deeper in some way, and also it was a lot more intense. The feelings and everything, the sensations, everything, like the connection with my body, for myself at least, was so much more connected and intense and deeper for me. Yeah, and now
Wow.
that answers the question.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it sounded like the first 3 months were like very intense, just like because of like feeling ill and then food poisoning. Oh my gosh. That also during a pregnancy, it sounds kind of scary as well.
Yeah, first month was.
We thought it was just symptoms of the we didn't know it was food poisoning before.
Yeah.
So we were a little bit concerned.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, but then you said like from the 5th month or something, it was a bit more, you felt more yourself, like, kind of feeling more, wanting to also more connect emotionally and sexually as well. But then for you, David, I'm curious because this is something in my mind is like, men are very sexual beings, more, at least the majority of them. I know there are couples where it is opposite, where the wife is more sexual driven than the husband. But in our couple, it's more my husband. So, and so I'm just curious on how was for you this time when Araceli was not able to have intimacy with you, and how were you dealing with that?
Yeah, I think during pregnancy was not bad at all. But I think there's more I can share later after the birth and the postpartum period. But during this time, it was the first 3 months. Yeah, it was more on focusing on her health, and that kind of like was the main priority and the focus. So then, so it's like, let's reconvene in 5 months' time. and focus on work or doing some other things, right? And making sure we can connect other ways than sexually, and keeping our cups full that way. It was not a long period without intimacy, I would say.
Yeah, if she asked, how did you deal with the times that we couldn't?
I didn't answer the question. How did I deal with it? I made sure to, whenever there was feelings or maybe emotions that would come up, because from my experience, my sexual desires, it's kind of like it's also connected emotionally with me. I would try to understand them, and if I needed to talk to other brothers, and I was also facilitating in Radiant during that time, which was very helpful because every week we'd get to connect, share about our week, and connect with other brothers. That was very helpful, and whenever I was feeling like my needs were not met, then because of that I would be emotionally down. I would kind of like understand, where is this coming from, and kind of like connect with brothers to answer any questions or resolve and understand any feelings that I was having. So I guess that would answer the question.
Yeah, definitely.
Did that answer
Yeah.
the question of
Yes,
that was
yes,
like a
yes.
way
This
to
is
deal with?
something, yeah, definitely, because this is something I've noticed also with Sebastian, is that certain things I cannot fulfill because I'm a woman, certain connections that a man needs with other men.
Yeah.
So, and knowing, okay, for a period of time when maybe I won't be able to fulfill his need for sexual intimacy, he can look filling his cup in a different way.
Yeah.
And what I really understood also from Benji is sex, or like, this sexual drive often, or the sexual energy is also a creating energy. And so that he can focus it something into something different, creating something differently, creating connection with other brothers, with his friends, also with other people, and filling his cup in that way. So it definitely makes sense what you shared.
Yeah. And also we talked about things, like we were very open and like with each other about how we're feeling, and also how we were envisioning this period of time and how we're feeling, like how do we feel like we can respond to what's going on. And so yeah, we talked about like wanting to connect. And so if I didn't feel like it was possible physically, then we would connect in some other way, right? Definitely for me, I guess it was easier, like the lack of sexual intimacy, to fill it up with emotional connection, or doing other things together, because the physical aspect was really the one thing that was changing for me. But it was also like sometimes hard for me to I was used to, for example, like sleeping in a very specific position where not with the belly I couldn't hugging him. Like hugs were so hard. Now we couldn't hug as much as before, and that's something that I really feel connected with. And so I was also sometimes feeling like I miss my husband even though we're here together. And so we would talk about those things, and we would try to find other ways to a different position where I can still hug you, and you can still feel connected, and things like that. And the same way for him, finding other ways where we could connect, still satisfy that need for connection, but different ways. And he also needed to as he said, connect with other brothers. I think that one thing that was very evident during our pregnancy is you can get very isolated, if you are not intentional with other relationships in your community, in your tribe. We kept talking about the tribe, and it's it's so important actually, right? So that became very necessary and important, that he invested in connecting with his tribe, and also me with my own people, and yeah, that was part of it for sure.
Yeah, so nice that you were so intentional with that, and not forgetting to isolate yourself and then being in your own bubble and then suffocating maybe in your own bubble, but filling up your cup somewhere else as well, and then coming back together filled up and giving each other even more. That sounds very important, and I can relate with that to a certain extent without pregnancy, but doing the same thing, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, so Araceli, how did your body image change? Because I know for a lot of women, body image is either something very painful or something getting used to. And then when the body is changing, like how was that for you during pregnancy?
Yeah, I think I'm very lucky because I don't have that much of a issue with my body, um, how it looks. And every time that I see the change, I relate it more with the idea like, oh, the baby's growing, it's amazing. And so it was such a happy thing. And then, yeah, I didn't, I don't know why. I can't explain why. Like, I just felt like, oh, this is so nice. And sometimes I would joke with David around the fact like, oh, I'm just so big, and then like, like maybe you won't like me anymore, and it was just as a joke, because he would tell me like, what are you talking about, like this nonsense, like whatever your body is like. And I think we have this foundation of like loving each other and wanting each other just because of who we are now, our bodies, so much that it was just as a joke that I would say like, oh, I'm big. It was funny to joke around that, and also like, my clothes don't fit anymore. I just like, but I was also in my house, just the two of us, so I was mostly like as, free as I could be. And so I was seeing my body change, but it was like normal. I didn't have like, except when I needed to go out, when I needed to go to like, my family's house or like a church or something like that, where I needed to have some clothes. But in the house, not really. So I'm giving too much information, but yeah, in like my birthing suit, as they call it, yeah, or pajamas. Like I think that helped me to like feel very like connected with my body. Like I was looking at it all the time, and it was like just normalizing it, I guess. Everything was changing, and it was like, I think it was changing for the better. That's the way that I saw it. Like it's changing for the better, both for the baby, but also for me and David, because it wasn't like, oh, I don't feel attractive, or maybe he isn't attracted to me anymore. That was never a question with us. And when those things, those thoughts sometimes come up, right? When those things came up, I would just share them, and then he would just reassure me. So then I didn't have an issue in that regard. I did have a bit of I'm still going through it, I think, now, having given birth, right? Now that I'm not pregnant, but I still have my like somewhat of my pregnancy body. I haven't like slimmed down or anything like that, and I haven't been intentional with it. And then going back to like seeing myself, not pregnant anymore, and the belly's still there. It was kind of hard to see my body as part of myself. It was hard to like reconnect with my body, because at some point I felt like my body was not mine anymore. It was for my daughter. Everything was for my daughter, basically, right? Yeah, it was, I didn't notice when this happened, but at some point it was just like, this is just for Lizzie. Everything is for Lizzie, right? To feed her, for her to sleep on me, to survive everything. And so then at some point, then I realized, oh, actually I feel kind of disconnected from my body, and it doesn't look like what it used to look before pregnancy, right? So it's like, this is a new thing, and I kind of had to get used to it, like from a different like perspective of like, this is my new body, this is who I am, and this is like my body for myself, but also for my spouse, and also for Lizzie. Like it's not just one thing. So that has happened very recently, where I realized that, I was feeling disconnected and kind of like reconnecting back to it. So that was what I was going through. That's what I went through in terms of like my image with my body. Yeah.
For me, I was fine. So beautiful before and after, but then it was interesting to me that I was saying that after, when you had put on the weight, that you were beautiful, and then you couldn't take it, and like I don't feel connected, and I'm like, if you think I'm beautiful now, or there's some disconnect, right?
Yeah.
Which was interesting to me, because I never had thought about that. So it's a real topic for
women.
Because think about it, in 9 months, like you changed into a completely different body.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. It's after birth. At some point, I was like, I don't like my body so much. I don't like it. But then it wasn't a priority, like to like I guess, do something about it. It was hard to like, reconnect with my body at some point, and so I was just like, I guess, avoiding it at some points, and then look for reassurance, which David gives very well. And so I guess I just needed to like accept and learn to like accept my body as it is right now. And then if there is something in terms of my body that I don't like, I can just like, now that I'm more recovered, I can do something about it. Before, it wasn't that possible. In the process of just recently having given birth, it's like, no possibility of doing much about it. But so yeah, there was a bit of a conflict there with me and not liking my body a lot, but then also not feeling like it was mine to do anything about at that point. And then now I'm feeling more reconnecting with my body and learning to accept and love myself and my body, and like, yeah, as it is now.
Yeah, that makes sense. So did Dad had an impact into your postpartum intimacy?
So no, not really. No, it was more when I needed to like dress out, and I was like, nothing fits, and I don't feel like my body's there. In terms of intimacy after labor, that was impacted just by the process of giving birth, right? It's the recovery from that, in terms of like how everything feels. It can take a while, right, to like feel ready to connect again sexually and intimately like that, and we're still in that process actually. So that was impacted by this process of like, we're still in recovery of like feeling like we're able to connect again physically. Yeah, not because I didn't like my body, just like it was just not possible. It doesn't feel possible. Even we've tried, right, to reconnect like that, and when we feel like it's really not possible, it's like going back to the first night experience,
Oh, wow.
It's like, yeah, it's like
Relearning somehow?
yeah. I mean, like, not everyone is able to connect at the first time that they try, right? And so we're kind of like going back to that process of like, okay, this feels uncomfortable, maybe we need to try something different, or maybe we need to try again later, because right now it's just a bit painful, or like it doesn't feel right. So we are in that process of like, okay, not there yet, right? It's like, our intimacy right now is we connect in different ways, because the physical connection right now is a bit difficult to get like that. Yeah, so we're still in that process.
Yeah, and also in the practical sense of what was going on in your body after postpartum, there's another trimester of your uterus kind of need to finalize down. Right? Mm-hmm. There's still things going on that need to be fully healed. Your abdomen muscles needed to be healed completely, and I don't want to give too much information, but there was some stitches involved, mm-hmm. So that needed to be healed completely as well. So many things needed to be healed. So she was like, just like, after a battle, like in a battlefield, you need to go get home, recover and get healed up all the way. So need to be conscious about that, and mm-hmm. and the amount of energy also it takes to feed the baby. So she's kind of like giving her whole body to I could help with practical things, but she's giving the baby food and energy and the connection and touch that the baby needs. The baby needs to be glued onto the mom as much as possible in the beginning, and to feel safe and nurtured. So there's a lot of things, biological things and practical physical things, as well as the spiritual and the emotional connection. I believe it would be very painful for the woman if the man was not aware of that and was maybe stubborn and hard-headed in a specific way that wouldn't empathize with what was going on with the woman. So I can see it in that way as well.
Yeah, this is something, a little of a worry I have. I mean, I know that Sebastian is very empathetic and does understand a lot of things. I mean, we do read a lot of books right now. Also, there's one book that's called To Become Three, and where we kind of read through certain things that we kind of prepare mentally for that as well, for the time after. And as you said, there's a hand or a plate size wound in your womb after the placenta goes out, right?
Yeah.
That has to heal, and it's actually also recommended by the World Health Organization to not have any intercourse for the first 6 weeks, because everything needs to heal and everything is basically open, and it's a high danger also for infection. And that's like worst case scenario to have an infection and having to go to the hospital. And then so it is, there's a lot of things to think about just right after birth. And then, as you said, even now, like almost 8 months after the pregnancy, is still like challenging and difficult and even sometimes painful. And so you need to you had to find a new way to reconnect or connect for different ways, maybe not like a direct intercourse, but maybe something different.
Yeah.
You, David, also okay with that, and not to push her or make Araceli not feel bad about herself. Also for you, Araceli, not to feel, oh, okay, something is wrong with me, but you kind of arrange with yourself and talk about it. So I think a lot of couples need to do that before they even go into that and know, okay, this might come, and that they are not able to have it for a very long time, having no intercourse, but maybe being able to do something different. And
we had a conversation about that when I was like in halfway through the pregnancy, but I was thinking more about the emotional aspect of like connection of because in our couple, I'm a bit more aware of like something feels off, like we need to talk about something, right? And I bring it up and I ask to have conversations, right? And you know, not that he doesn't do it, but I think I the one that initiate the most. And I did talk with David about you know, there's a very, you know, high chance that in this whole process of like giving birth and becoming a mother, becoming a father as well, but especially the mom, it's like, you know, one with the baby for a long time. It's a bit different, right? How we become parents, the experience, right? And I told David that it's very likely that I'll kind of lose my, or you know, my identity as a wife, you know, as your couple, and my identity as myself will kind of lose priority, because you kind of focus only on your baby's, you know, well-being, and so our couple is definitely gonna take a backseat in my priority, you know, 100%, 99% chance that this is gonna happen, right? I don't know how I'll be, but this is very likely to happen. So you're gonna have to be the one to take care of this aspect of like making sure that our couple is still good, that we are doing okay, and that if we need to connect somehow, that you find a way to do it, that you find a way to bring it up, that you find a way to make us reconnect, because I won't have that as a priority anymore. And I was talking about the emotional aspect, but also, you know, intimacy, sexually, like it is more his drive, and he's the more aware part on that, and that's totally fine, right? He's the one that brings it up, and then we do something about it. So it's like, okay, you're gonna have to be the one to do it, both emotionally and intimately, and find alternative ways to connect, because physically most likely won't be possible. So we were aware that this was going to happen, we just didn't know how it was going to happen and how it's going to hit, right? And so nothing prepares you for the first month of, you know, after giving birth, like how you're going to feel and all of those things, but also like the stress of and fear of like, is your baby okay all the time, especially, you know, you as the mom, you being the one that needs to take care of, you know, if you're breastfeeding, so nursing your baby all the time, your brain changes so much, right? It's all focused on their survival. So David was literally in charge of my survival, and so the dynamic changed a lot, right? Especially during those first months where everything is new, right? And you don't know what to do, you don't know if you're doing things well, and you need that reassurance of like, you know, somebody else telling you like this is fine. And so then he needed to be the one to also okay, we are fine as well, we're connected, and we find ways to connect even if we haven't connected somehow. But he is also super like sleep deprived as well as I am, right? So then he also needs support, right? That's why the tribe is so important, because you need people to help you to survive, to reconnect with your identity of, you know, your individual as well as a couple, as well as your being parents. But parenthood like takes over, so you kind of have to be very intentional with, like, going back to maybe old hobbies if you can, or reconnecting with friends as much as you're able to, right? There's not that much hours in the day where you have energy to do anything. So as much as you're able to be intentional with that, it's so important. So going back to this connection, David was the one to do it. And I told him, like, you have to take care of that. After birth, we were both able to be a team in that regard. It's not like I completely disappear. My like awareness of like, oh, what's going on. But he definitely had to like be more the person of like, if there's something there that I can't handle on my own, then we need to take it over, the two of us, right? So being aware of that is important.
Very important, when you mentioned on the teamwork aspect, to not face this, but go through this experience as a team, and especially being a team before pregnancy, through pregnancy, and after pregnancy as well. So they're all connected. They're not separate in any way. And going through the birthing process as a team as well, being part of that experience as well, inviting your child to the world. I was able to see just how much you just sacrificed your whole body to bring our daughter to this world, and to the degree like you're probably on the verge of passing out of pain and stress and suffering, basically, and losing consciousness. So it was just so hard to. Well, your birthing experience was in the middle of the night, and we haven't eaten for a day, and you couldn't eat during labor because you'd throw it up. So she was low on food as well as low on energy, and then had to do this huge effort. So it was very painful, and going through that, being by her side and supporting her as much as I could, gave me a deeper perspective on just how much, without going off topic, but the teamwork aspect and feeling as a team, and also this survival instinct that kicks in. You want to make sure the baby does not die. So, and when we sleep, you can't really like sleep all the way because we're taking care of this little fragile thing that can fit in your hands, and you're just staring at you with this 100% like dependent on you, and so I think for me personally, maybe the guys could relate. There's some kind of survival instinct that kicks in, that you want to make sure the basic needs of being alive are met. So you're kind of like focused on that. Like, okay, let's make sure we don't die. Anyways, that was kind of the strong feeling for me during that period, and then you too. I want to make sure that you're healthy, you're eating good, and everything was basic things were taken care of.
Yeah. It sounds like that. I will go back on something that Araceli you said, because that is something where like, okay, this is something I really need to talk with my husband about. But I want to go first with something you said, David. It sounds like that you watching Araceli give birth to Easy, your little baby, that really changed the perspective on how you see Araceli as well. Like that she's able to do that, but also with you together as a team. But of course, she has to do the heavy lifting.
Yeah, exactly.
But that she, as you two became parents, but she had to become really a mom and like really sacrificing her body, her brain, basically, because the brain completely changes. The brain chemistry is changing. And I remember that someone was showing on social media that this mom brain, right? Where you say, oh yeah, mom brains, you forget everything. But I've learned that it's actually not, you don't remember things. It's more, you remember only things that are important.
Yeah.
Things are not that important, where the keys are, or, that is not important. Important is that the baby and you survive.
Yeah.
So that was also a very interesting aspect of that. So yeah, in this way, because I know Sebastian became very understanding, because I remember when we came together, he was like so confused on me being in my period and having PMS. And he was like, so who the heck are you? What is going on? He was not like so confused for so long. Now it actually became much better after, almost 6 years. But my hope is also going through pregnancy and birth that he will see on, that there are certain things he might never be able to understand, but he maybe through seeing and experience that with me together, that he's able to understand better or have, more respect to that. And when certain things are not possible, that there is an understanding for that. And I think like in the past, I was more worried, like especially when we started 4 years ago, there was this worry more. But since we are going through like 4 years now trying and also through some IVF treatment, and I was not doing really well, and how much he was actually carrying me in this time, I noticed, okay, I do can rely on him. And so this worry on I am on my own, after birth, kind of actually disappeared. So, and also when you, David, shared that even being part of the birthing process as well, that has changed your perspective, is also for me kind of okay, that's good too. So this is looking forward to. Not the pain though, but
yeah. Just the thought of that some fathers don't have the experience and have no clue of that, and then afterwards there's no deeper understanding, and it's that you can't really relate because you're like, okay, you went to the hospital, you came back with a baby, and what's different? Why things are different, type of thing. So it's just to kind of paint that picture.
And Araceli, you were saying before that you two had a conversation during the pregnancy that there might be, you don't know how it will go after birth, how will postpartum time will be. And so that might take some time, and you will be 99% focused on the baby, that to ensure their survival, to breastfeed, to take care, and then talking already beforehand to David and say, hey, you might be needing to take over, to see that we actually as a couple still connect emotionally and maybe also physically with, cuddling or, even like sexual intimacy as well. And that you talked that about before the time hit hard. And so you were kind of already in the mindset, okay, it might be happening this way. And so it was not, you said like the first month or first 2 months, like hit hard, that you will never expect that to be. So, but still, like you were kind of having, okay, it might hit hard. So kind of having the mindset or prepare you somehow in a certain way into this mindset, it might happen. And then your responsibility, Araceli, is to take care of the baby. And for you, David, it's your responsibility is to take care of Araceli, the baby, on everything else. Kind of. So it was kind of clear.
The talking about like how do we think about the stages and like what are we expecting and what is our vision of like, how do we want this to happen versus like what happens actually and how you react to what happens, right? You can't foresee how you're going to react to that, but you can get preparation of like understanding what those processes are and what needs to happen, right? So that you can deal with those things that are happening. That is such an important preparation. And, I know we talk so much about the North Star goal and having integrity and all those things. And as much as you can, right, getting informed of like biologically what happens so that then you know how to prepare for it. But then also how ideally you would want these things to happen. And so then you get double preparation of like, okay, how can we make that happen? It's so important. And as much as you can do that, then totally recommend it. The reason we were able to talk about these things is like, even though we weren't super prepared, we hadn't go so much into the details of like what's going to happen so that we get ready. As much as we could, we did. But I know that we could have done a lot better. You can always do better. we had our experience, having seen our parents, like how they dealt with certain things, and or even afterwards how they, their conflicts and their conversations about, parenthood versus a couple. I saw my parents go through many things like that, and especially, with my mom, understanding like, wow, she really did. Her identity of a mom really took over everything, right? And her identity of a spouse kind of disappeared. And so that brought a lot of conflict in their relationship as a couple, right, with my parents. But them as a team, as parents, were amazing. But then their team as a couple was, struggling a little bit. So knowing that already, I was talking with David about this, like, this could happen, right? Because we really can't, control how we're going to react as moms, how that's gonna take over, our identity. So that's why I was like, you have to be ready because this could happen, right? And as much as I would like to still be your partner and, teammate as a couple, I don't know how I'll be, what's gonna happen. So yeah, preparing for that was really important. And even though when, birth happened and everything hit me and him, we were like having different experiences, we couldn't like control how we reacted to those things, but at least we had a vision of like, this is what we talked about before, and there's a North Star that we're trying to work towards, even though at this moment right now we're kind of struggling because, we're all sleep deprived. I think that was a good thing to have that north that we're like trying to walk towards, so that things wouldn't feel so like disencouraging or like, hard. Things were hard, but it's part of the journey. Not everything won't be like this all the time. Things will pass. So I think that also was helpful to know, like, there's a way, there's a light outside of the tunnel.
So how did your perspective of being like pregnancy, but then also parenthood now, change on your relationship with heavenly parent and two parents?
Yeah, I mean, it made it deeper. Like, you could relate more with the words and the teachings. There was this deeper emotional connection from experiencing something to what the words were saying. That just brought my concept of your parents and God to a deeper level. What about you?
Yeah. I think I relate with the feminine side of God a lot more now. I used to have a big, close relationship with God as my dad, but the feminine side, it was always a bit more conflicting. And I think I understand it a lot better now. Pregnancy like completely opened up my heart to levels that I couldn't have ever done before without that. And so I feel a lot more connected to God in that side. And like I don't have to do anything. I just I feel like God in a way. It's very interesting. I hadn't thought about this before, but I feel like I am God in a way. And because we are, right? But I feel it so much more now because I've created life. So I feel like God as a parent, right? It's like you feel connected to God all the time, in a way, to this specific identity of myself as a mom, right? But yeah, it really deepened that connection with God and to parents as well. Yeah, gosh, I know I had said something before and I completely I was like, my mind went blank. Yeah, and then I also felt connected with God in this other side of like, we're partners, because we feel like Lizzie was something that we created, like we created Lizzie, but she's also a gift. Like, we couldn't have put Lizzie's soul, let's say, into her body. I think we created this partnership with God of this idea of co-creator is so true. And when you're like giving birth and bringing a life into the world, and we really felt that before deciding to like get pregnant, before deciding that we were open to like, if a baby comes. Before that, we were like being very intentional with like protection and like we're not ready yet, we're just connecting, but we're not really open to like bringing a life into the world yet. But when we decided for like to being open to that, we felt like we let the universe flow through us, right? And that was one way that we also connected deeper with God, right? And we really felt that we were blocking something before. After that, we were like, the universe is flowing through us. Like, we let that, we unblock that.
It was almost as if Lizzie was like waiting to, on standby. It's like, guys, am I coming here or not? And then we're like, okay. And then
You can come now.
You can come now. And then it's like immediately.
Yeah, and she was ready to come. So we feel like there was a partnership there that came about with like, okay, we feel ready, she's ready, and God is always ready. Like, and now we are coming also into the team. And so then the experience of having given birth, just like seeing Lizzie for the first time was so powerful, and it was amazing. Yeah, no, like I can't even describe the emotions that went through that, but it's just like that connection with Lizzie. I felt like God was there all the time, and yeah, that's how, I guess, answering the question, that's how that relationship changed. And yeah, I think I rely a lot more on God, all the time, like, and I want Lizzie to connect with God. I want Lizzie to feel like God is with her all the time, and I know we are, the models of like God for her. So yeah, I feel like it's like a constant thing that God is there with us all the time, and we want to present and introduce God to Lizzie as much as we can through how we connect with God, but also through what we do in order to connect with God for her, right? So yeah.
And it's almost as Lizzie is also like a physical manifestation of God as well. Yeah. Because before we were only two, and then we're relating with this invisible being, and then now we're two and we have a physical being. So it's interesting. The 4-position foundation diagram, it was kind of like seeing it in actuality is pretty interesting. It's pretty.
Yeah, and she makes us grow so much all the time, right? So then it's also like, wow, this is another aspect of God that we're finding out as well, of like taking care of God, through taking care of Lizzie. It's like so big, such a big responsibility as well, but also so beautiful. Yeah,
I have one last question. So for those who are preparing to be parents, or couples who are worried about that, worried about losing the spark during the season. Maybe they are right now pregnant or preparing to do that, like to welcome the extension of themselves and Heavenly Parent into their life. What kind of advice would you give them?
For me, I was putting a lot of emotion in the sexual connection, and a lot of emotions were attached, and a lot of value, right? Value as a man, as a
pleasure.
The pleasure, the orgasm, all of that was like, there's a lot of emotional stuff that I didn't fully worked out that was connected to that, and that I wasn't really aware of. And I felt very embarrassed because I felt Araceli was in a different understanding and level of actual experience of a more ideal intimacy. And yeah, I realized that there was also a lot of sexualization on certain aspects of the female body that was like also a worry of, make me nervous.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna look ahead.
I'm like, no, I get in my own head when I'm trying to like speak, knowing that she's like, when are you getting to the point?
I don't see anything. I wasn't thinking anything. I'm listening.
Go ahead. I'm so sorry. Okay, where did I stop? Yeah, okay.
Sexualization of the body.
Yeah, sexualization of the body, and how the objectification was still present in my
Yeah.
So I had to like, talk that through with brothers and try to understand that more, because during this period of postpartum there was no sexual intercourse, and that emotional connection to the value that I hold, and that I wasn't getting that emotional need met, that I couldn't name. I couldn't I didn't know what this was, but I knew there was this, I needed this, but like, where am I going to get this? And how am I going to get this? Oh my God, the world is ending. And if I there's no sex, I'm gonna die. And then so then I needed to like understand like what was that emotional thing that was there, so I didn't, talk that through with brothers, and to really understand, so that this it was a more of an emotional thing that needed to be understood and met, so that I could go back to the ideal of sexuality and intimacy, where you already were kind of like you already were there. So I was embarrassed to be feeling that. I felt very like a kid, like a kid that lost his like teddy bear or something. Like, what's going on? And so yeah, so that was a difficult period for me, but I was able to talk that through and understand that. I mean, still in the process. We're still in postpartum period, so I'm just kind of like sharing as we go. And I was also kind of nervous and embarrassed to be on the podcast as well, because I didn't feel like I was in a position to teach, and that's not what you want. That's not what people need. They want, I'm like, okay, we're living through this. So, and sharing as we go, that's kind of what people want to hear. So there it is.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate it. Really, thank you, David. I appreciate that you're so open and share that, even though you're embarrassed and it's maybe uncomfortable, and share that. But yeah, I do see that also maybe with Sebastian. I mean, I cannot talk for him, of course, because he's not here. But this is also where men feel connection with their partner and with their wives. So from a woman's perspective, I do hear you, and I understand. Thank you for sharing that. Make it also visible for other brothers, other husbands as well, so they see, okay, that might happen, or oh yeah, that they have to deal with that. And then talking with other brothers about that, maybe other husbands or other dads as well, and having their tribe, having their community to go with them that together, and so that you don't have to go through that by yourself, right? So that is...
Yeah, I would just say, because, losing the spark feels like this concept similar to like honeymoon. There are periods of time, there are phases, there are seasons like in a couple's life where sexual connection is like super good and super like constant and often, and there are periods of time where it's not, and that it's not like the end of the world, right? Though it may feel that way for some people. And that's okay also to feel that way, and it's good to talk about those things, but also know that it's temporary. When you're going through it, it feels like it's like super long and it's horrible, and it's like, and I understand that. But yeah, we have to remind ourselves like this is temporary. We are going through a period of time. This is recovery. Like the priority right now is just like very different. And of course we want to keep connecting, right, and finding other ways, but the one other way that we can't connect with and connect as at the moment, it's like we want that and we're working towards that, but even at this moment maybe it's not available, so let's find something else, let's find some other way to connect the two of us together, right? So as many alternatives as we can find. But I think it's so important, especially if you're the spouse that has the more, the higher sex drive, whether that's a man or a woman, like to connect with other people, like a mentor figure. I know for David, it's so important to have his connection with our mentor, who was our matching advisor at some point. He's an uncle, and he's a person that we can trust and feel comfortable sharing these things. And so David shares about those things, and being able to talk those things through with him, but also the two of us together, and understanding, okay, right now it's not possible. What is possible, right? What can we do? And remember, you have to remind ourselves, this is temporary. Sexual connection is so important. I'm not saying that it's not, right? It needs to, for the person with a lower, sex drive, it seems like you can live your life without it. But it's still so important for your couple, right, to have that connection, right? And it's not just pleasure, it's also connection, it's also life-giving, right? And understanding that as well, and being empathetic towards your partner at the moment. Maybe their needs are not getting met, right? And they're not getting met in the way that they would want to, right? They would want the most, but still finding the intention behind, and to like, I want to satisfy as much as I can your needs, right? And yeah, it's just a lot of patience, a lot of like understanding. We talk about grace a lot in High Noon, and yeah, being intentional with like, if I'm not able to connect in a certain way with my spouse right now, okay, how can I connect? What are the alternative ways? But also finding other people, in your tribe, to recharge, your cup, your emotional cup, with other brothers, other friends, other mentors, couples, parents, as you said, siblings. All of that is so important for the both of us. Even for me, it's like, even if I am maybe that my sex drive is like, it goes up and down, it's just like, because my body is going through so many physical changes, it's like, it just changes so much. But the emotional connection is so important, right, to like take us through this whole journey. So yeah, I was so grateful to David that he was so intentional, right, to like go through this, like understanding his own like connection to his sexuality, and understanding that, it's not just one way, there can be many other ways. And I can also connect with my, brothers, and I can also do other things, right, to satisfy my creativity as well, right? As you said, that, because he was so understanding that I was going through something that I couldn't, really satisfy his needs. And that allowed us to really connect, in a different way, in different areas of our lives. And so that's what we suggest to anyone that is afraid of that. It's like, don't be afraid of that first, because that is going to put so much pressure on you to, feel like, oh, I need to go back to this thing. I need to like, and it just makes it worse, because then you associate, connection and sexuality to something like, a fear. And puts a lot of pressure, and then it makes it worse, right? So then, don't even think about that fear, but think about like, okay, getting ready for this is gonna happen, and we're gonna have a little bit of a challenge here, and like, how do we prepare? And you can connect in many different ways. And yeah, I hope this gives you some sort of like, foresee how we can deal with this at some point when that happens for you, and for anyone that is going through that. There are seasons, and you're still a team, so you can go through it as a team, even if you can't connect with intercourse. There are other things, there are other ways you can still connect. Yeah, and it's just another period of growth for you as an individual, but also as a couple, right? So yeah, that's it.
Wow, yeah, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, that like I feel like throughout the whole time we have this conversation now, there were a lot of different things that I was like, okay, this is we need to do now and talk about, And I really like this perspective on, we will like the time before pregnancy will not be the same ever again after pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make sense to stress about it and try to get that back.
Yeah.
Actually work with what you have now, and you cannot have the same what you had before, but you can create something different and something maybe even deeper than what you had before. So yeah, that is also I think creating also the mindset around it. It's like, okay, we're not trying to get that back what we had, but actually creating something new, something deeper, something maybe even better, And so
It's like transforming. It's like a life is just going.
exactly,
And
yeah.
transforming as it goes and it grows.
Transcending to a different level.
Yeah.
Single is level 1, couple is level 2, parents are level 3, So yeah, that's very interesting on creating this different perspective.
One last thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you said it so well. You summarized it super well. I just wanted to mention, like, because we know this, but it goes out of our minds when you're in the thick of it. Like, you can't think about everything rationally, but growth is not linear, right? You're going through the same lessons, again and again, but on deeper levels, right? And that's what David was sharing before. It's like, we talked about sexuality before
Exactly.
even pregnancy, right? And the ideal, and we understood it in a certain level, right? And then when you go through pregnancy, when you go through like postpartum and all of that, you go through the same experiences, but on a different level. And as you said, like, now we're a couple, now we're parents, like different levels of the same experience, and you understand it on a deeper level, and better. And yeah, being aware of that is just like allows you to like, okay, we can deal with this, or is this different?
Just adding to what you just said right now, we had a similar conversation like 3-4 times, and the amount of patience she had, because I was understanding intellectually and spiritually, but like emotionally, physically, living through that was different. So then you had to have a conversation like the 4th or 5th time for me to finally like see it for what it is and living through that. And thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes. So you might have to have the conversation more than 3 times.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
That can be stressful.
But yeah, it's definitely true that, having a conversation, understanding intellectually and spiritually and something like that, but then actually experiencing emotionally as well and living through that is so different. And it hits much harder. So yeah. And then having to go through it, maybe the same conversation more often again, because, maybe living through it and then also feeling it emotionally, maybe the first time not really able to actually deal with it properly. And so then going through it again. So it's like, oh, okay, now to either sensitize oneself or become more used to it, and then become more empathetic to oneself and having more grace to oneself, to the other person. And so that sometimes it's also needed to go through the same challenges again and again to have a bit different perspective with it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That was such a nice conversation. I did not expect for it to go so long though, but
Yeah, sorry. We like this.
no, I love it. I really loved it. There were so many amazing experiences you have shared. What I really took out from this conversation was that to really talk with each other, when there's something, one of you feels something, there is something off, or maybe there needs to be a conversation about something, and not to lay it off for too long, but actually, when there's the feeling, okay, talk about it. What's going on? To have grace for each other. Also, giving the other one space to share and not to take it personally. And then, having some sort of possible preparation as much as possible, but of course to have the awareness it might be different than we expected, and that's okay too. And just being open for possibilities and open for also change, because there's nothing more incredible, I believe, or life-changing than having your first child, right? And then of course also the other ones, but the first one is like exactly you becoming the first time a parent. And sure, the second time is maybe more tiring because you have a toddler, or but first time is like really becoming heavenly parents in a way, right? As you said. So yeah, so I really appreciate your honesty and your openness to share. And thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting us and for those questions. It also made us reflect a lot, so it's really good.
Yes.
Thank you.
And it's something we're living through, and also, thank you. So it's kind of like, it's real and present.
Yeah. This will definitely be helpful for the journey that we're in.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have professionals and couples that went through their challenges already, but it's also nice to have couples that are still in a specific topic inside and maybe haven't gone through it completely. But I feel like, you have been sharing so openly about it. And so, I just really appreciate it. And I'm pretty sure that is an episode that will head off really well. So I have heard for a lot of people that they would love to have more kind of that content, prepare for for parenthood and stuff like that. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Take care and have a good rest of your day. Bye.
You too.
Likewise, you too.
Bye.